Welcome in, everybody. Get ready for a seriously cool deep dive into the 2024 Cumbre Mujeres Líderes.
I'm so excited for this one.
We've got a ton of material to dig into, attendee lists, presentations, even post-event surveys.
It's like we're getting a VIP pass to this amazing event. We get to see what happened, but also kind of feel the energy, between the lines.
Exactly. So we're going to break down all the key insights, the big aha moments from the Cumbre, and hopefully give you some inspiration for your own leadership journey. But first, let's set the scene. Cumbre Mujeres Líderes 2024 Mujeres Empresarias, 100 incredible women leaders all in one place.
Including finalists and winners of those prestigious awards, the Premio Ejecutiva and Red Bio Activa.
Huge deal. It was invite-only, too. Not easy to snag a spot.
Definitely created this feeling of exclusivity, which I bet made for some really focused discussions and networking. And when you look at who is there...
The attendee list, yeah.
Wow, talk about variety. Jamie Twyman from Ferreteria El Águila, the hardware company.
Right. Then you've got Pamela Montanaris. She's a consultant working across a bunch of different sectors.
And Andrea Perez de Castro from Teatro Mori. Big name in the theater world.
Oh, and Constanza Arjona from CMPC.
Right.
That's one of the major forestry companies. And that's just a tiny sample.
Just a glimpse.
We've got folks from mining, energy, finance, even astrophysics.
You can't get much more diverse than that. I bet those different perspectives led to some super interesting conversations.
Oh, for sure. That's what makes these kinds of events so valuable. You get exposed to ideas you might never encounter otherwise. But let's get into the meat of things. One session that really stood out was that panel discussion, what have we learned from the past?
With those three powerhouse women in politics, Karla Rubilar, Rosario Navarro, and Paulina Vodanovic.
Powerful is right. And they got really personal. Karla Rubilar, she called politics medicine on a grand scale.
I love that. It shows how much she believes in its potential to make a real difference.
And she didn't shy away from the tough stuff either. She talked about being a young single mom trying to make it in politics. There's this one part where she talks about sometimes wishing she wasn't on God's list of best warriors.
Yeah.
It really hit me.
Yeah, like that pressure to always be strong even when you're running on empty. I think a lot of women can relate to that.
Totally. It takes a lot of courage to admit that, especially in a public setting. But that's what makes her story so powerful.
It shows her strength, Andy, her vulnerability. And you know what else struck me? All three women talked about how important it is to have a strong network of other women. Rosario Navarro, she used the word hermandad.
Sisterhood.
Yes. Having that circle of women to lean on, to share your doubts, celebrate your wins, it makes all the difference.
Especially in leadership roles, which can get pretty lonely sometimes.
Absolutely. We need those reminders that we're not alone. And Paulina Vodanovic, she brought up another crucial point. Women need to be heard. Too often, we're dismissed, overlooked.
Especially when we're challenging the status quo.
Right. Vodanovic's message was loud and clear. We need to speak up on all L issues, not just the ones people expect us to care about.
Whether it's the economy, healthcare, tech, we need to make our voices heard. Silence isn't an option.
I love that. And these personal stories, they really highlight some of the big themes we're going to see throughout this deep dive. Resilience, finding your voice, building that supportive community.
They set the stage perfectly. And actually, there's a really interesting connection to Lourdes Ocampo's presentation, which we're going to dig into later.
I was just thinking about that. Lourdes, she talks about how even as companies are saying all the right things about equality, there are still so many deep-seated beliefs that hold women back.
Yeah, it's a sobering reminder that change takes time. McKinsey actually predicts that at this rate, we won't reach true gender equality until 2122.
That's a long time.
Makes you wonder, what beliefs are WE carrying that might be unconsciously affecting how we lead or how we view leadership? Right. Like Rosario Navarro said, those imposters within. We need to identify those and challenge them head on. But for now, let's turn our attention to Lourdes Ocampo herself. This woman is an international expert in human and organizational development.
And her presentation at the Cumbre was all about shifting paradigms, which is what we're trying to do here, right? Shift your paradigms, get you thinking differently about leadership.
Exactly. And from her bio and the notes we have, it's clear that Lourdes isn't just about talk. She's about action. She pointed out that despite everyone saying how important women are, the pandemic actually made things worse in some ways.
It's true. Progress isn't always a straight line. We have to be vigilant, keep pushing. And Lourdes makes a fantastic point. Achieving equality isn't just the right thing to do ethically, it's good business.
Yeah, she brought out the data. Companies with more gender diversity are more profitable, more innovative, better at attracting top talent.
It just makes sense. Different perspectives, different life experiences. That leads to better solutions.
It's a no-brainer. And there was this really cool activity she had everyone do. Everyone picked 2 cards.
Oh, yeah. One represented a value that's crucial for leadership. The other was an obstacle to women's leadership.
Powerful way to get people thinking about those deep-seated beliefs, right? What would your cards be? That's something I want you to think about as we keep going.
Absolutely. That self-reflection is so important. But now, buckle up. We're about to blast off into the future with Cuky Pérez. Data, AI, all that good stuff.
Her presentation was mind-blowing. She's an economist, but also a data science expert, worked at Airbnb, Shopify, big-time stuff. And her whole point was AI isn't just some far-off thing. It's already here, and it's changing everything.
It was like getting a sneak peek into what the future holds, and it's moving fast. Cuky talked about how, even back in 2012, AI could recognize hot dogs in pictures.
That seems kind of silly, but
it's the foundation for so much of what we see today. Self-driving cars, medical imaging, all that relies on AI recognizing patterns. And it's getting more and more sophisticated every day.
it's crazy how fast it's moving. But I think her examples from Airbnb were the most interesting.
Oh, definitely. Those really brought it home. She talked about how AI can predict how much you could earn renting out a room or offering your skills online. Super useful information.
Imagine having that kind of insight. But then she blew everyone's minds with this thing about soul detection. Airbnb Plus uses AI to analyze listings and see if they have, well, soul.
Like, how do you even teach a machine to recognize something like that? It's incredible. It shows that AI is getting better and better at understanding those complex, nuanced things that we thought were uniquely human.
Right. And her closing message really hit home. In this AI-powered world, critical thinking, continuous learning, emotional intelligence, those aren't just nice-to-haves, they're essential.
Absolutely. The more powerful AI gets, the more important those human skills become. It's all about finding that balance, that partnership between humans and technology.
And the coolest thing, after all these incredible talks, the Cumbre attendees got to create a podcast themselves.
Using AI, Google's NotebookLM tool. So cool.
It wasn't just about passively listening. They got to actively engage with the ideas, shape the narrative.
Talk about putting learning into practice. And guess what? We're going to hear a snippet of that AI-powered podcast later in the episode. But first, let's take a moment to reflect.
We've covered a lot of ground already, from those inspiring personal stories to the big picture stuff about paradigms and the future of AI. What are your big takeaways so far?
You know, that theme of women supporting women keeps coming back to me, whether it's formal networks or that idea of hermandad, sisterhood. It's so powerful. And that business case for gender equality, that's crucial. It's not just about doing the right thing. It's about recognizing that diversity makes businesses stronger.
Absolutely. And Cuky Pérez, wow. She really opened my eyes to the possibilities and the challenges of the AI-powered future. It's not about being afraid. It's about understanding and shaping it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. We're all in this together, figuring out how to navigate this new landscape. And who knows, maybe AI will be the tool that finally helps us break down those barriers and achieve true equality.
That's a hopeful thought. But for now, let's take a break and come back ready to hear what the Cumbre attendees created.
Can't wait. It's interesting, right? We're talking about this amazing support between women that her man dad, but then Lourdes Ocampo brings up how the pandemic really set things back. Makes you wonder, did those support systems kind of weaken with all the stress and everything?
That's a really good point. Everyone was under so much pressure. And women, let's face it, we often end up taking on most of the caregiving. Kids, parents, even just managing the emotional stuff for everyone. So yeah, I could definitely see how some women might have felt like they had to pull back from their careers just to survive.
Exactly. And that's why I think what Lourdes said about equality being good for business is so important. It's not just about morals. It's about seeing the value, the real tangible value of diverse teams.
Totally. Show them the numbers. Diverse leadership, more profitable companies, more innovation, better at attracting talent. You can't argue with that.
You can't. She's basically saying, look, if you want your business to succeed, you need to care about gender equality.
It's brilliant. Gets everyone on the same page. But that all ties into this bigger idea of shifting paradigms, right? Which Lourdes talked about so well.
It's not enough to just have a few women at the top. We need to change how we think about leadership entirely. What makes a good leader? What does success even look like?
Yeah, she had this great quote. Leadership for women isn't just about occupying spaces. It's about transforming them. Love that. We're not trying to fit into some old school model of leadership. We're creating something new.
And the Cumbre itself is like a mini version of that, bringing all these amazing women together, letting them share their stories. That in itself is transformative.
Speaking of transformative,
Hey.
are you ready for a trip into the future? Cuky Pérez's presentation. Wow. Data, AI. She took us on a wild ride.
She really laid it all out, how AI has developed, where it's going. Remember how she started with AI recognizing hot dogs in pictures?
That's kind of funny now, right?
Right. But that's the basis for so much. Self-driving cars, medical diagnoses, AI recognizing patterns, that's the key. And now it's gotten so sophisticated, we have those language models. GPT-3 and all.
You can ask them almost anything. They can write different creative text formats like poems, codes, scripts, musical pieces, email, letters, etc. And they try their best to fulfill all your requirements.
It's mind-blowing how far we've come in such a short time. And Cuky's point was, this is just the beginning. AI is going to be everywhere, part of everything we do, which is exciting, but also kind of intimidating.
Yeah, definitely. But how do we prepare for that? What skills do we need?
Well, Cuky talked a lot about that. First, critical thinking, being able to really evaluate information. Because with all this AI-generated content floating around, it's going to be harder than ever to tell what's real and what's not.
We can't just blindly trust everything we see online anymore. Which brings us to another important skill. Emotional intelligence. Sure, AI can kind of fake emotions, but it doesn't actually feel them.
Humans, we have that edge. Empathy, connecting with people, navigating tricky social situations. Those are going to be more valuable than ever.
Definitely. And we can't forget creativity and adaptability. We're all going to have to be constantly learning and relearning. The jobs of the future, who even knows what they'll look like? We got to be ready for anything.
It's like Cuky said, upskilling, reskilling, and it never ends.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool, right? We're all lifelong learners now. And AI, it can actually help us with that, like that NotebookLM tool from Google that the Cumbre attendees use.
Oh, yeah. That was amazing. They were using AI to create their own podcast, reflecting on all the big ideas from the Cumbre.
AI helping us process information, brainstorm, collaborate. It's incredible.
What if every conference, every meeting can be like that? AI helping us really capture those insights and make the most of our time together.
I'd love to see that. And speaking of, remember that snippet of the AI-generated podcast we promised you? We're going to hear it right now. Get ready for the collective wisdom of the Cumbre, powered by AI.
This is going to be good. It's amazing, isn't it? Hearing them, all those voices, those ideas, it's like you're right there at the Cumbre with them.
I know, right? And it's not just what they're saying, it's how they're saying it. You can hear the energy, the passion.
Totally. The AI really captured the vibe of the whole thing. Makes you think, what if we could use AI like this more often? To capture all those amazing conversations that happen, in communities and organizations.
I was thinking the same thing. It could be so powerful. Everyone could have a platform to share their knowledge, tell their stories. Imagine the possibilities.
Right. It's like democratizing knowledge sharing.
Yeah.
Giving everyone a voice. And it ties in perfectly with what Cuky was saying about embracing technology, being co-pilots of the future.
Exactly. AI doesn't have to be this scary thing. It can be a tool for good, for connection, for sharing, for making things more equitable.
It's inspiring, really.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Cumbre Mujeres Líderes, what's the one big takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
I think it's this. The future is about humans and technology. We need those human skills, empathy, critical thinking, all that. But we also need to embrace technology, use it to make things better, to amplify our voices, to connect with each other, to create the future we want to see.
I love that. It's not one or the other, it's both. And remember, you're not alone on this journey. There's a whole community out there, incredible women supporting each other, learning from each other, building the future together.
So keep learning, keep growing, keep those sparks of inspiration alive.
Until next time, stay curious.